Shut up and sit down.
MVP Picks, your home for mixed martial arts news and betting advice.
Welcome. This is the third episode of the MVP Picks podcast. I'm your host, Mike Picklick. Pretty big show today. After a nice weekend of fights, we're going to be recapping UFC 262, talking about what's next in a new segment, what's next for fighters, what should they be looking forward to, who should they be focused on, who should their opponents be. We're going to be talking about that. One fight announcement in the middleweight division. UFC supposedly blocked GSP from boxing De La Hoya in the promotion Triller, and Dana White had something to say about that. Bellator 259 this upcoming Friday. Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt UFC Fight Night this upcoming Saturday. And then later in the show, we're definitely going to be going over some potential locks for this upcoming week for UFC. Bellator will be doing on Friday as the odds aren't out yet. Okay, let's go.
It's now time for your mixed martial arts news update.
Okay, let's recap. UFC 262, Houston, Texas, Toyota Center. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, the main event, ended in spectacular fashion as Charles Oliveira knocked out Michael Chandler 19 seconds into the second round. Now, if you were watching the fight, the first round, Charles had a lot of trouble. He was in a lot of trouble. Michael Chandler got him hurt. Michael Chandler was really swinging for the fences and, was very, very aggressive. Tried to, really set the tone early. But Charles kept his composure. He survived the first round onslaught and literally you just blinked and the fight was over. And the celebration was, absolutely amazing. I was rewatching it like all day on Sunday. It was just Charles jumping the fence, celebrating with the commentary booth in Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, and John Anik. And then goes to thank UFC President Dana White, and then just starts dancing, runs to his family. It was an awesome night for Charles Oliveira. We'll talk about what's next for him in our new segment, What's Next? And that goes for all the rest of the fighters as well. Up next in the co-main, Beneil Dariush versus Tony Ferguson. Beneil Dariush got away with the win. Not really, didn't really gain any fans that night. It was kind of a boring fight. A lot of grappling, a lot of laying on top of Tony, and that makes 3 losses in a row for Tony. I think that's 7 in a row for Beneil Dariush. I don't know what to say about Tony, man. That was, all 3 fights have been very hard to watch. And someone said in the press conference, in his last 3 fights, he landed 30 strikes. Significant strikes. 30 significant strikes. I don't know. Something's going to be happening with Tony soon. I can feel it. I don't know if it's good or if it's bad. I guess we'll see when that time comes. Caitlin Chookagian gets a decision win over Vivian Araújo. Fight of the night for sure was the start of the main card. It was Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos. Insane knockout. It was almost like a delayed knockout. Barboza hit him with a clean shot on the temple, and I swear Burgos just looked like his controller died in a video game. Like his body just completely gave out, and it was such a delayed reaction. Like the whole crowd was just like no one knew what was happening. It was insane. It was just an incredible performance by Barboza. And they if you didn't know, the $50K performance of the night and fight of the night bonus was raised to $75K thanks to Tony Ferguson at the press conference, who basically called out Dana White saying, "Hey, we're in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. Might as well make the bonus bigger too." And those guys were both awarded $75K. Ronaldo Souza lost to Andre Muniz by submission in round 1. Andre Muniz literally broke this guy's arm. It was so nasty. Like they literally played the sound of the break on the broadcast, and it was so loud. It was like someone broke a baseball bat, and Souza was just like, yeah, arms broken, stone cold. Unfortunately for the 41-year-old, I do think that that is it. Suffering an arm break like that, especially late in his career, that's going to take a lot of recovery, a lot of rehab, and I think it's safe to say that Ronaldo Souza's time in the UFC is probably over. But I don't know, we'll see. Lando Venata versus Mike Grundy. Mike Grundy lost to Lando by decision. Great performance by Lando. A lot of controversy surrounding this fight. And there was a lot of controversy also surrounding the rest of the card. Judges were really not on their A game that night. And this fight was a prime example. Lando won pretty convincingly in my eyes, and reporters saw the same way. Dana White saw the same way when he was asked in the post-fight press conference. And there was a judge's scorecard that gave all 3 rounds to Mike Grundy. Now, no disrespect to Mike Grundy, he did put in a good effort, but it's safe to say the guy lost, maybe every round, maybe one round. To be giving him all 3 rounds when he convincingly lost, yeah, it's not good for the sport. Definitely not good. Anyways, middleweight bout between Jordan Wright and Jamie Pickett ended in spectacular fashion for Jordan Wright. He got the KO in 1 minute and 4 seconds into the fight. And it was spectacular. It was a spectacular knockout. I mean, every time I see this guy fight, he's just always getting massive KOs. So, I mean, good for Jordan Wright. Something big is definitely coming for him in the future if he keeps performing that well. Andrea Lee got a submission over Antonina Shevchenko in the second round. Going all the way into the early prelims, Christos Giagos got a submission over Sean Soriano. That ended up being another 75K bonus. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up UFC 262. I thought it was a very entertaining card. I watched it from top to bottom. The co-main, kind of slacked a little bit. I thought we were going to be getting a little bit more of a treat, but that's okay. The main event really made up for it, and the rest of the card had some really good fights. Interesting fight scheduled in the middleweight division. Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland is scheduled for UFC 265 on August 7th. Now, they're both riding 4-fight win streaks. Of course, Uriah is coming off of an interesting fight, to say the least. It was the viral leg break of Chris Weidman that essentially lost him the bout to Uriah Hall. It was literally the first kick thrown in the bout. Yeah, Uriah Hall's looking to bounce back quick. Sean Strickland just recently fought and is again riding a 4-fight win streak. And listen, this is a telling fight for both guys. I mean, win streaks do a lot for you in the sport. I've really come to notice if you are riding a nice win streak, the bigger the fights you get. So it's very valuable to try and maintain that perfect streak and maintain momentum. That's a good fight for the middleweight division. So, big news. The UFC has supposedly blocked George St. Pierre from competing in a boxing match against Oscar De La Hoya. So, Triller was the promotion that was looking to make this event happen. They're known for their circus fights, especially with the recent bout between Jake Paul and Ben Askren. Dana White just pretty much shut it down completely at the press conference, saying how, I mean, he doesn't know, and I agree with him, what are they building at Triller? It's a complete clown show. I mean, watching the events it's like, it's garbage. And I mean that, and I don't even mean that to be offensive, but it's just so, there's no, direction in it. It's like, there's fights, there's concerts, there's, these weird interviews, pre-fight interviews with, these celebrities to to act as backstage reporters and media. Like it's a clown show. It makes no sense. So I mean, GSP is obviously still under contract in the UFC. I mean, it's bad business to be doing that. I completely see why Dana White doesn't want his fighters fighting for those guys. Like Ben Askren came off of course got knocked out to Jake Paul, but he was retired. He was coming off a hip surgery. Like these guys, it's a shady business they're running, and frankly, I completely agree with Dana that he doesn't want to get GSP involved. And GSP, come on. Dana White also confirmed that Derek Lewis will be fighting heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, and they're aiming it for the summer. And he says Stipe Miocic is next, the former heavyweight champion, and not John Jones. There's been a lot of speculation and a lot of talks and a lot of hype around this fight, this potential super fight between John Jones and Ngannou. Of course, John Jones gives up his UFC light heavyweight title to pursue um, his goal of a heavyweight championship, and he's been working out for the past couple months, posting on his Instagram. He's looking pretty big, and but there's been a lot of back and forth between Dana and John when it comes to negotiating, and it just doesn't seem like they're on the same page. And obviously, you see with this past weekend, Dana doesn't think that John's gonna be fighting anytime soon. So, I mean, the negotiation has been really surrounding money. John feels like he should be getting paid 18 mil, while Dana doesn't think that. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. I mean, Dana's very stubborn. I mean, we do know that. So if it's really, I don't know. I guess we're going to have to see how this all plays out. Bellator 259. It's a decent card. I mean, headlining is Chris Cyborg, the featherweight champion. She's taking on Leslie Smith for the second time. Otherwise, some other big fights. Austin Vanderford versus Fabian Edwards. That's something I'm definitely going to be watching. That is a very interesting bout for Bellator. Both guys are massive, massive stars in the 185 division. Fabian Edwards being the brother of Leon Edwards, who's taking on Nate Diaz in a couple weeks, and Austin Vanderford, who is married to Paige Van Zandt. Another popular fighter, Valerie Loretta versus Hannah Guy. Valerie is 3-0. Bellator is slowly building her up. She is a Taekwondo fighter. Very, very interesting style, very fun to watch. And yeah, those are kind of the three fights that, jumped out at me when I'm looking at this card, but we'll definitely talk more about it on Friday. Also in the press conference, that is it for MVP news. Now let's get into our news segment. What's next?
You're listening to the MVP Picks podcast. Here's what's next.
All right, this is what's next. So for this segment, I'm going to be just basically going over all the ranked fights where you had fighters who were ranked in their respected division, and just to kind of talk about what's next for these guys. Starting with Charlie Oliveira. I mean, pretty simple. He is the winner of the lightweight title. He knocked out Michael Chandler. I would say he should get the winner of Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3, the trilogy. I think that is really the only fight that makes sense right now. I mean, with Justin Gaethje coming off of a loss, I would say he should maybe fight someone first before he fights for the belt. But that would be a good fight to really prove if Charles is really here to stay. I mean, both guys, Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, are game as it gets, and I mean, with the retirement of Khabib, it's safe to say that those two are the top of the food chain in the lightweight division. So Charles takes on the winner of Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor 3, which is going down in July. As for the loser, Michael Chandler, I think he should take on Justin Gaethje. I mean, he said he got on the mic right after his knockout loss, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to be saying yes to every opportunity still. I'm here to stay. I will have that belt." I mean, what better way to say that you're still here than take on the former title challenger and interim champion Justin Gaethje? So, um, both guys are coming off of a loss, so it kind of makes sense. And that's kind of the fight I would do for Michael Chandler. I think that makes the most sense. Um, Beneil Dariush beat Tony Ferguson. For Beneil, listen, because he kind of got that, it wasn't really that much of an exciting win. He kind of, he still he got the job done, but it wasn't like a statement win. You know what I mean? So, I would say he should fight, a Rafael Dos Anjos, who's ranked number 7. He's coming off of a win over Paul Felder. Islam Makhachev could be a really good fight, just considering the ground game between the two. Gregor Gillespie too. Gregor Gillespie's a former NCAA wrestler. He would be very interesting to see uh, matched up with Beneil Dariush. A lot of fights for Beneil. I would say Beneil is more known as a brawler, if anything. Like the last couple fights have just been stand-up wars, So, but if he does take this approach of heavy grappling, I mean, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's very talented. Won a lot of competitions and a lot of grapplers to pair him with. So that's as for Tony Ferguson. Listen, I don't want to see Tony fight anyone in the top 10. I don't know. A lot of speculation saying he might be on the chop block soon. He might be getting cut. But I don't see that. I think he's done too much for the company. Give him a lower ranked opponent. Give him a Cowboy. Cowboy's getting one more fight at lightweight. They fought before. Let's do a Cowboy versus Tony Ferguson too. Give Tony's confidence back a little. Get Tony's confidence back a little bit, maybe. Maybe that could help. Who knows? Caitlin Chukagian, of course, gets the decision win over Vivian Arario. Chukagian, listen, I mean, she recently fought for the belt and got shut down pretty quickly in the first round. So I'm not going to say that she should be, fighting for a belt, but I still think she should be fighting, top contenders and or up and coming contenders. A good fight for me would be Andrea Lee. Yeah, she's ranked number 11, but she's just coming off of that amazing submission of Antonina Shevchenko. Like that was a great win, and maybe Andrea Lee can pose problems for Caitlin Chukagian. Who knows? But they're both coming off wins. That just makes the most sense to me. As for Vivian, you know, maybe take on someone like a Jessica I, maybe like a Roxanne Modafferi. I don't think she's ready for that top 5 level of competition. She should maybe, build herself up a little bit more, get a couple fights under her belt, and then maybe she should aim for that top 5 spot. Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. That was, of course, fight of the night and a very, very, very fun fight to watch. Edson, I mean, listen, I'd say why wait? Why have him lie around? I think he should be matched up. You know, of course, give him a month to relax a little bit, recover. It was a little bit of a war, but keep him on the pedestal a little bit. I think Giga Chikadze is coming off of that first round TKO of Cub Swanson when he scored that nasty body shot. I mean, two premium strikers like at its finest. That would be an amazing matchup. Gigi Chikadze versus Edson Barboza. Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez. I don't know what's going on with him. He hasn't really fought in a long time. He's coming off of that win against Jeremy Stevens. But, Edson versus Yair would be an amazing fight. Again, two premium strikers going at it. Arnold Allen, he's another good striker in the featherweight top 15. Lots of matchups for Edson. Lots of matchups for Edson. Sadiq Youssef, another good striker. But these are all guys coming off of wins. I don't want to be. You don't want to be matching up these guys, with dudes that are on 3-fight win streaks. You want to match it up in a sense that there's equal playing fields in some sense. And I feel when two guys are coming off of losses or two guys are coming off of wins, it just makes more sense to pair the two up. As for Shane Burgos, I don't want to see him fight for a little bit. I think that was an awful knockout. I think he just needs to take some time off. As for a fight, Bryce Mitchell, I think that'd be a really cool fight, Shane Burgos and Bryce Mitchell. But I don't know. Maybe Shane Burgos versus Calvin Kattar. They're both coming off of losses. Calvin Kattar recently fought Max Holloway, and that was a war. But it's been months since then, and maybe that's a potential matchup you can have in the featherweight division. Going on to the last fighter, Andre Muniz. Listen, when you take out a legend like Jacare Souza, I feel like you've warranted a top 15 opponent. I don't know. I feel like the way he did it, he was saying all week how much of a better grappler he was, and I mean, when you look at Jacare's resume, he's a grappling phenom, like ADCC world champion, multiple time no gi, with gi, uh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, like just a force to be reckoned with on the ground. And I mean, he got submitted in, the first round. It was incredible. So Andre Muniz, I would say maybe to break into the top 15, maybe an Omari Akhmedov. Maybe, yeah, those are really the only Amari Akhmedov, maybe a Brad Tavares, guys that are on maybe the bottom tier of the top 15. But let Andre Muniz break in there. He looks like an exciting young prospect. And maybe, what I was even saying, maybe the winner of Edmund Shabazi and Jack Hermanson, that fight's going down this week at UFC Fight Night, Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font. So, hey, that's a great fight too. Okay, that has been what's next. Let's get into our MVP Power Picks recap.
It's now time for your MVP Power Picks recap.
All right, MVP Power Picks recap. To be frank, I did awful. I was 3-4. Very, very tough weekend for MMA betting for me. But you know what? I think I've got to go back to my roots and only going with 3 or 4 fights a night. I gotta stop picking the whole card. It's really damaging, like not damaging, but it's really affecting. Like it's taking away good wins, good nights for me. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm biting more than I can chew right now. So I'm definitely gonna slow down and maybe pick 3 to 4 fights, just good value fights, fights you can make money on and that I'm really, really sure of. So, we had Chandler, Beneil, Arajo, and Barboza, Jacare, Venata, and Shevchenko. So Shevchenko lost, Jacare lost, Arajo lost, and then Chandler lost. But we did get good value wins on the Venata win, the Beneil win, and the Edson Barboza win. So that's, it's a decent night. Not my best though, but we will get it back with this upcoming week of fights. We have Bellator 259. The odds have not come out yet, but I will be doing that on Friday. So that will be coming out on the Friday's episode of the MVP Picks podcast. As for just looking at the upcoming UFC fight night, Rob Font is minus 125. I would hop on that right away. I really like Rob Font to do some work on Cody Garbrandt. I think he is an exciting up and coming bantamweight. Very, very powerful hands. His last fight was against Marlon Moraes, and he completely dismantled him. Uh, just an amazing performance. Rob Font minus 125. Definitely going to go up this week. Rob Font minus 125. Definitely going to go up this week. So hop on that instantly. Okay, so as for other fights on the card, Edmund Shabazian is plus 130 against Jack Hermanson, who's minus 150. Ooh, so Shabazian is going up he's going up big time. Listen, I am still gonna go with Jack Hermanson for now. I think he will do some work on Shabazian. He's at minus 150 right now. So far, Rob Font, Jack Hermanson. Carla Esparza is plus 110 against Jan Ixanin. Carla is plus 110. I would go with Carla. I would go with Carla. Felicia Spencer versus Norma Dumont. Felicia's at minus 140 right now. Definitely hop on that. Definitely hop on Felicia Spencer. As for the rest of the card, nothing really speaks out to me now, but you know what we'll do at the end of the week. We'll be going over the whole card and just seeing if we can find some tasty bets, and I'll be picking my top 4. So this has been the third episode of the MVP Picks podcast. Make sure you give me a follow on my Instagram at MVP Picks 19, where I post all my articles and I post all my picks. Anyways, I'll see you this upcoming Friday. Have a good week.